One of the new provisions of the Secure Act 2.0 is that 529 plans that are used for college savings can now be rolled over in some fashion into Roth IRAs. This could be a really big planning item, and that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning. Hi, I'm John Shearer, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan-Mermel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. Before we get going, let's remind everybody to please subscribe. It helps us with YouTube. We've got a special financial planning guest today, and that's Sean Mullaney. So Sean, why don't you introduce yourself, and then let's kick off our description about the 529 to Roth IRAs.
Hi, I'm Sean Mullaney. I'm a financial planner with Mullaney Financial and Tax. I am based in Los Angeles, California.
Great. Hey, really excited to have you on the show here, Sean. And you know, the Secure Act, right? It sort of came crashing in at the end of the year, 4,000 some pages, a lot of stuff to go through, right? Trying to figure all these things out. One of the things I know has been getting a lot of press is this idea that we can take 529 plan money, college savings. We don't need it for college. It can go into Roth IRA. But it's not quite as simple as that, right? Can you just give us a breakdown on sort of what the big picture rules are?
Yeah, and let's go back just a little bit here and say, well, what the heck is the problem, right? The problem is no one knows what college is going to cost, right? So folks fund 529s 5, 10, 15, 18 years before junior goes to college. And so you put some money in there, hopefully it grows tax deferred and then ultimately tax free. And then, well, maybe junior got a scholarship. Maybe college didn't call, he went state school instead of private school, all these sorts of things. And so we don't know exactly what's going to happen in terms of account size in the 529 versus college tuition that's going to be paid. And so sometimes you could have amounts left over in a 529 after junior graduates. And then the question is, does he go to graduate school? Does he not go to graduate school? Is there a grandson or another sibling we could change the beneficiary in the 529, right? There's these issues of, wait a minute, we just overfunded this 529. So there's been, hey, what do we do? Congress has entertained this idea, and now they've passed a provision that says up to $35,000 per beneficiary can be moved from the 529 to the beneficiary's Roth IRA. And it's a limited way of bailing out money from overfunded 529s into Roth IRAs, where it retains the tax-free growth and it's for the benefit of the beneficiary. But they realize, wait a minute, this is a pretty good deal for taxpayers. So we're going to put some bells and whistles and conditions on it. And I would say the two biggest ones would be that the 529 itself has to be at least 15 years old. That's a big one. And then the overall limit, which is the 35,000, and you could only do Roth IRA contributions for the beneficiary. So this is not free by any means. It replaces the beneficiary's annual Roth IRA contribution. So using today's numbers, 6,500 for a 20-something. If you were to use this maneuver, it's 35,000 lifetime, but only 6,500 this year, and then the beneficiary themselves doesn't get to make their own Roth IRA contribution. Lots of stuff to unpack here.
Yeah.
Wait, and I have one too that I think is important or actually I'm going to put in two. One is that this doesn't start the 529 to Roth doesn't start until 2024.
Yes.
So, and the second thing is that not everything is worked out yet. So
100%.
we have guesses
Yep.
about what's going to happen, but we know the IRS will issue guidelines about what is, and they'll probably be debated, and it might not even be all settled up for even a year or two later. So this is going to be something that this is a true episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning, because we're all financial planners. We're going to be talking amongst ourselves to try to figure out, okay, how do we use this for clients? And what do you think? What do you think will ultimately happen? But there's some things that are known, but some things are not.
I would start off with two things. One, this is a great bailout technique, right? If we're in a position today where we've had a 529 for a number of years and our child got a scholarship or maybe did college in 3 years instead of 4, that sort of thing, great. We now have a bailout technique, and we'll find out the details later, but this is a good tool in the toolbox, if nothing else. So this is good news, it's not bad news. That's the first thing. But then do we say this is an affirmative planning tool? I'm not there yet, and I don't think I'm ever going to get there. Now, we could talk about that. If you go online, there's scuttlebutt about, well, it's the beneficiary. In theory, I could be the beneficiary of my own 529. I'm in my 40s. I'm never going back to college again, but there's nothing really stopping me from setting up a 529 for my own benefit. Maybe I do this. I don't think that's a wise tack to take at all. I think the IRS, in theory, could come out with regulations or other guidance stopping that. But even if they don't, I would say, look, it's overly elaborate, right? I'm going to be able to contribute to my own Roth IRA as long as I have compensation income anyway. So why do I need to take this thing and deal with a 15-year rule?
15 years.
And so that's where I'm at today. But things can change, and all three of us and all other practitioners are still figuring this all out.
Yeah, that 15-year rule really discourages people from saying, okay, I'm going to put money in this in a 529 that I create just for this tax, just to try to get more money in my Roth, because it's going to be, who knows, like from a tax planning standpoint, it's hard to tax plan 15 years on a new strategy that you're not sure that ultimately you're going to be, what if you end up with, okay, this whole thing goes away and now I've got a 529 and I'm retired.
Well, and I would also question just how much tax are you saving? So let's just say that I figure out, I take out my financial calculator, I do some net present value calculation. So I fund a 529 today so that it will produce a stream of income, in 15, 16, 17, 18 years that roughly equates to what the Roth IRA limit will be. I bet if we did that and we said, well, because you don't put 35 in, you'd put, with those numbers, maybe 15 or 20 in. So you'd be saving the tax on $15,000 or $20,000 of productive assets in today's low yield world with qualified dividend income rates. Turns out you're probably not saving all that much money. So that's part of the reason, even if the IRS blesses this thing 100%, yeah, go crazy. I just don't see the planning benefits in today's world. Now, in theory, yes, if we go back to 10% yields and they get rid of qualified dividend income rates, and now we're at 40% ordinary rates, let's just change some of the inputs. In theory, you could have a nice planning opportunity, but I don't see it in today's world.
Yeah, it's not a slam dunk for sure, right? The other thing, and as you talked about, Sean, right, it's not like I can take 35,000, just plunk it into my Roth IRA, right? It replaces my Roth IRA contribution. And if I understand my reading of it correctly, that means that I have to have earned income in order to do that, just like a regular Roth contribution. So it doesn't work for, say, grandma and grandpa. Well, shoot, I'll fund this for my grandkids and then give them, or you transfer it back over to me as a beneficiary, right? If you're retired or out of work in some fashion, this option goes away. So, again, long-term planning strategy, there's, I think you used the term, or if you didn't use it, something similar, the safety valve. Like, hey, in the past, don't save too much in the 529, because if you don't need it, boy, it can be kind of tricky to deal with that. And if you take it out, you have penalties and interest, right? Now you go, all right, we don't have to worry too much about over saving, because there is a safety valve, but not necessarily that, hey, here's a super opportunity, right? Like, that's what I see, and that's what I'm hearing in our conversation here today.
Yeah, I would say this is a bailout technique, right? This is, if anyone out there has a 529, I would say Secure 2.0 is good news that you need to wait to hear about the details about. But generally speaking, this is good news. But if you're sitting out there today without a 529 and you're thinking about a 529, I would say this only moves the needle like a little bit, not much. And the other thing to keep in mind too is how many people out there have the financial resources to pay not only for their child's college, but also 35,000 of their retirement savings. Now, yes, there are definitely people out there in that boat, but not that many people actually have sufficient financial resources today to do that. So I think that's another sort of, hey, let's just calm down a little bit here and really rethink this a little bit. And let's start with the premise that this is a bailout technique and probably not, at least right now, a planning technique.
Yeah, but I think it is a good bailout technique for people in certain situations. So I know one person who's middle income person who happens to be in the situation where they put money in the 529 and it went up a lot, because it's been a bear market. or a bull market during the time that they were, really investing in it. And then, the college plans of their child changed.
Yeah, that happens.
And they're like, wow, what do we do? And they could, I think, really be helped by this. And it is a situation, it's a situation that I think that the whole rule is designed for. They're not uber wealthy. It wasn't something that they planned. It was just like, oops, what happened? I guess we had some good luck, but we don't really want to use this all for education now. We'd like to open it up. So, and they're not quite retired yet. So it could be like they'll still have some earned income. That's actually the thing that I'm a little worried about, is this earned income part. But that like, what if you have a child when you're older and you don't know how this is all going to play out and you want to retire? And
Yeah,
that
I
have
think,
earned
yeah.
income.
Well, and also think about the beneficiary for a second. So maybe it's a modest income family and the child becomes a teacher, right? So, and for whatever reason, the 529 was overfunded. If mom and dad take it back, now we've got, like you said, John, ordinary income tax on the earnings, a penalty on the earnings. So maybe what we do is we say, well, daughter is a teacher, son's a teacher, and they just don't have that much income. Well, now we have a way to fund their Roth IRA every year for the first 5, 6, 7 years of their career. We've now really helped them out, and we've gotten them a Roth IRA contribution when they may otherwise not have been able to afford it. So yeah, this is great in those situations where, like I said from the beginning, we just don't know the exact dollar amount on college, and people have oversaved, or it's not even necessarily oversaving. It's like you said, Bridget, circumstances change, right? They got a scholarship. They went for 3 years instead of 4. All these things happen. And so it's good that this exists. And you also said, Bridget, the IRS and Treasury are going to have to issue a lot of guidance on this thing. So as of this recording, none of the three of us are fully versed in this. We're all just talking about it like friends talking financial planning and trying to learn about it together.
Well, one of the other things that I'm going to be watching for is the conditions around the beneficiary. Because right now you can change the beneficiary. There's the owner of the 529 and the beneficiary. Typically, the owner is one of the parents or maybe a grandparent, and then the beneficiary is the child or grandchild. So the owner can change the beneficiary. So right now, the owner could change the beneficiary to be themselves or spouse. They can change it to so like it's got to be a niece, nephew in your group. You can't change it. I couldn't change mine to you, Sean, or to you, John. Like but I could change it to my husband or to one of my other nieces or nephews. I don't know about great nieces and so there's some limits, but it'll be interesting to see that particular thing, like who and how long do they have to be a beneficiary before you can do the Roth to them? So I think the intent of it is that you can change the beneficiary to be yourself and then use that instead of Roth contributions. That's what I think the intent is. Or keep the beneficiary as your child. And like what Sean, you were saying, fund their Roth contributions for when they're starting out. They've got earned income. But I think right around that is one of the big things that I'll be looking for.
Yeah. One of the things I really enjoy about this conversation is all three of us in our practices aren't tied to the investment is not the core of what we do for clients, right? It's these planning things. And so many folks in our world where when they talk about financial planning, it's, how are we doing for the investments? So I really appreciate that this is one of the focuses of what we talk about is the real planning that makes a difference for clients. And, both Bridget and I have talked about this in our show a lot. Sean, it's been really great to have you on the show to share your expertise. Again, this is Sean Mullaney. For folks that want to get in touch with you, Sean, how do they do that?
Thanks so much for having me on, John and Bridget. There are 3 ways you can reach out. I'm on Twitter, Sean Money and Tax. You can get me at my financial planning firm, Mullaney Financial and Tax, MullaneyFinancial.com, or my blog, which focuses on tax and financial independence, FITaxGuy.com.
That's great. We'll put those in our show notes here, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you, guys.